What is up, everybody? It's Sunny back with another MyNBA2k video. Today we're going to talk about King of the Court. I am going to give you at least the best strategies that I feel to win this game, to win efficiently, to get all the ×2 multipliers you can possibly get, and to climb that leaderboard as best as you can. I mean, I'm going to give you my lineup, my reasoning behind using the lineup that I actually use. We're going to jump into some gameplay. I'm going to give you like a ladder by ladder analysis of how I actually play the game. This typically works for me like 98-99% of the time. I mean, I get most of the ×2. I don't get them all, but I do get most of the ×2 multipliers. I win pretty much every single game by following this strategy. So if you do enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Really appreciate that. But let's get into checking out the lineup first. Alright, this is a 15 card lineup, so obviously a lot of people are going to have a lot of different cards. It's going to vary from person to person, but there are a couple tips, I think, when you're putting together your 15 card lineup that you should probably stick with, and we're going to talk about those as well. Another thing to note before we get into the actual deck, I actually save all of my hot streaks until the very last day. The reason behind this is you know, I want to work as hard as I possibly can, climb the leaderboard as best as I can without using hot streaks, because as you know, when you put on those hot streaks, man, you jump up the leaderboard really quickly. So by the time Sunday rolls around, man, I usually have 15 or more hot streaks already ready to go, and I climb the leaderboard and I do not fall, because you don't want to be one of those that are right on the border, and these really help at the very end. And also, if you have to pay, you kind of know how much money you're gonna need, because you're gonna be paying for hot streaks anyway. But let's get back into checking out the actual lineup. Okay, so first thing, I don't use my best 15 card lineup. And the first reason behind that is, well, if you take a look at my best cards, you will see I have 3 superstar pros. 2 of them are foil, one being LeBron James and then the other James Harden. So let's just, for example, put in this LeBron James. Now, you always, when you put together your deck, you have to have a deck in which your very last card, or your very last opponent's card that you're going to be facing, you can beat them with your 2 worst cards. That is absolutely crucial when putting together this strategy for me. So as you see with the deck that I use, my 2 worst cards are 2 regular superstars, and they will not even come close. I mean, 3 of them would probably beat it, but 2 of them definitely will not beat. My 2 worst cards will not beat my best card, so you don't want them to have that best card at the very end, and there's no way for you to beat it. And so that's why you don't want to use your best deck, especially if there's that big a discrepancy between your best and your worst on the deck. Another important thing about this is, like I said, you have to be sure that your worst 2 cards will beat your best card. And in the deck that I have right now, I have 5 regular superstars, I have 5 superstar foils, I have 1 superstar event card, and then 4 star pros. So the difference between my best and worst is only like 700 points or something like that. So no matter what the situation, the AI mimics your deck, and so even if they have a star pro at the very end, which they normally do not ever do, you know, when you set it up like this, but in the worst case scenario, if they ever did, you know your 2 worst cards are always going to be able to beat that. Another important thing that I think is important, at least with my strategy, is you have to have 5 cards that are, I guess, your lower part of your deck, 5 cards or 6 cards that are in the middle of your deck, and then specifically exactly 4 cards that are your best cards in your deck. And the reason why you have to have 4 exactly, which you'll see in the gameplay, well, the very first ladder of King of the Court, there are 5 slots. Sometimes, if you have 5 cards that are all the best and the same level in your deck, it's going to put all 5 cards at the bottom, you know, that bottom row of your of the ladder. And being that you don't know what your opponent has, you're not even for sure if you can even get past the first round without having to waste, you know, 2 cards or something like that. So that's why I strongly suggest you put 4 cards as your best 4, because worst case scenario, all 4 cards are going to be in that bottom row, and there'll be one other card that you know that you're going to be able to beat. Now this next suggestion is a little bit up for debate, but I have tested this out multiple times, you know, rearranged this I guess order in which these cards are in the actual deck. But I've noticed that if I put my worst 5 cards in my 15 card deck first, they tend to get a lot more of the ×2 multipliers. If I put the best cards in the middle row, they tend to not get the ×2 multipliers. Now it doesn't always work like that, but whenever I put the best cards at the very top, it seems like they get the more of the ×2 multipliers, and you want to try to avoid having to face the best cards of your opponent. So you always want the ×2 to either fall on the bottom of your deck, you know, that bottom tier. For me, it's just regular superstars, or even sometimes superstar foils, and those are okay because you can beat those without a problem, but then you don't want to have this ×2 on the star pros. Support cards obviously are also more, you know, pretty important. You want to pick the support cards that are going to best fit your lineup. Me personally, superstar defense is the only superstar support I have, so that's why I have that one. And then my other one, rebounding, well, most of my guys are not very good rebounders. That is the one thing that I lack the most of all, I think. And so that is why I use the rebounding, because I've noticed the thing that you lack the most seems to pop up more frequently on a lot of the ladders. And another thing that's probably going to come into play, not that you can necessarily do anything about it, but the actual card level of the ones that you have is actually going to play a pretty important role. Take, for instance, this Shaquille O'Neal. Let's say I didn't have the Shaquille O'Neal and I had to use the lowest superstar regular card I have is either the Marcus Camby or the Sharif Abdur-Rahim. As you see, that is minus 408 points or minus 374 points. That card, those 2 cards are a lot worse than my Shaquille O'Neal that I have. And so if I'm stuck with using those 2 cards instead of something like Shaquille O'Neal, that is obviously going to affect whether or not I can win these rounds. So even though that this strategy is important, it also plays into effect like what cards you actually have. Because if you have the bottom of each of the tiers, it's still going to be pretty tough for you to win. But I'm trying to make it the best possible way that you can come up with, or that I can come up with, in order for you to win. And this works pretty much every single time. So I think we covered everything as far as the actual lineup. Let's get into some gameplay, and then I'm going to let you know exactly what I do each round. So as you see, this is perfect. I mean, this started off in the very beginning exactly how I wanted it to. It did not, like, this is one of the worst case scenarios that you can possibly have. You know, you don't get any of your best cards. But like I said, since you only had 4 of them, you know that at least one of the cards on the bottom row is always going to be lower than your highest card. And so we only have 4-star pros. They only have 4-star pros. They put them all in that bottom tier, or the bottom ladder. So I can beat that regular superstar card without a problem. So let's just take, let's just go with Shaq. I know he's a regular card, but he is so much better than Zach Randolph. I feel completely confident. Even if Zach Randolph's ability activates, I don't think it's still going to be a problem. So normally I would have just used a foil in this particular case, but since I had the Shaq and since Zach Randolph isn't very good as far as his card goes, I'm not too worried about it. And now the rest of their cards are either going to be regular superstars or superstar foils. Now, Typically, when you start the game, you have to have, like I said, your worst 2 cards to be able to save for the very last level. Only use 1 card per level. Whatever it takes for you to do, only use 1 card per level. Even if that means skipping one of the ×2 multipliers just to make sure you do that, you have to make sure you have your worst 2 cards at the very last level, at the very least. You know, you can have your best 2 cards if you want, if you make it that far, but I'm just saying you got to have your last 2 or your worst 2 cards for the very last level. So another one, this is not a very good superstar foil that we're playing against right now, so I'm just gonna pick, let's go Elgin Baylor, and he's just gonna run over this guy without a problem. And that's where it comes into the fact of, you know, how good are the actual level of your cards. Elgin Baylor and Abdul Rahim is like not even close. I mean, that's like 300 or 400 point difference in between the two. So again, not worried about it. They got another foil, Gordon Hayward. He is a little bit better, but not quite as good as most of my guys. Again, we got Allen Iverson, completely would crush him. We have an event card that is so much better, but I'm just going to use this Allen Iverson. Playmaking is in both of them, so we know Allen Iverson, all about that playmaking. Shouldn't be a problem, even again if he activates. Second to last one. Now again, we still have the event card. Event card will absolutely dominate again. So I'm going to use that one, pick up another ×2 multiplier, and we still have 2 cards left over at the very end. And even though they're both foil, and it might beat them right off the bat, but we still have 2 cards just in case, because sometimes your last 2 cards are just going to be regular superstars and you're going to need them. But even in this case, you know, he still beat me barely by 12 and 4, and so we still have another card. Like I said, that's why you always want to have 2 cards at the very end, whatever it takes. So ×2 on all of them except the first round, 18 total points, which is good. Alright, let's do another one. Hopefully they mix up the lineups and stuff, and we'll get some star pros. So we just got 1 star pro. We got, let's see, 1, 2, 3 foils, and then we got 2 regular superstars. So those 2 regular superstars, those that Dennis Johnson and Zach Randolph, those are gonna be for the very last level. And so, like I said, you want to make sure you only use 1 card per level. This time they did put the ×2 on the Star Pro, but again, they used all 4 of them on the bottom row, and they left, there's 1 card left over that you know that you can beat. So this is defense and playmaking. Chris Paul, which is really high in defense, really high in playmaking. Not even going to challenge that. I am just going to skip the ×2 just because this particular case, you know, it's not beneficial to go for it. So we're just going to put Dennis Johnson out. Actually, you know what? Let's go, let's put Elgin Baylor on him, because we still got Allen Iverson, which is low on rebounding, and then we got our other guy, Willis Reed, who is high on rebounding, so we kind of got both of those avenues covered. So now we got a ×2 multiplier on a regular superstar, and this is what I was, you know, talking about. When you put the worst cards in your deck first, I tend to notice that they seem to fall on the regular cards a lot, and so that's what I like. I am going to take, let's go Allen Iverson, put him on there against John Starks. Not even close, because of course my Iverson is a foil. Then we got offense and playmaking. Now it goes on to their foil card. That is what, Joe Johnson. And so Joe Johnson, who has higher, I should have kept Allen Iverson. That would have been a better choice. But Allen Iverson used last round, and of course I do not have offensive or playmaking. And Willis Reed is not very good in the offensive or playmaking. I kept him for the defense and rebounding, but In this particular case, you know, we're going to have to, I guess, skip it. You know, we want to make sure that we make it to the final round. And I want to use that Pau Gasol for the second to last round. So we're going to get through this one. It's just a regular superstar card, so not going to be a problem. They didn't have a ×2 multiplier. Unfortunately, it's really not going to matter who I face because it is my star pro. And so even when you have, because I even have sometimes on cases like this in which if I would have picked Willis Reed instead of Allen Iverson the round before, I would have been completely fine. Sometimes it works out where it happens like this, where you can't get those ×2 multipliers. Most important thing, though, of course, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you win every single game. You have to win every game, because if you don't, you obviously don't get those ×2. So ended up being, what is that, only 14 points. So not the greatest of rounds, but still. All right, let's just do one more really quick just to make sure that we all got, I guess, what I'm thinking when I do this, and maybe see if we could get a, all right, well, see, this is like one of the best scenarios that we could come up with. We have 3 of our 4 star pros. They only put 2 of the star pros on the bottom deck, so you gotta assume there are 2 more somewhere else, and so you want to make sure that you can be, you know, you can take care of those. The first one has defense on both sides, so I am not worried about at all who I pick. So I'm just gonna take Paul Pierce, and I'm gonna go against my boy Mighty Mouse. When I was a kid, this was my favorite player of all time, Damon Stoudemire. He went to the college I went to, University of Arizona. Love that guy. I really wish I could get a Damon Stoudemire card, man. I would love to get that card. Next round, we have another star pro in there. So again, mental note, there could be, you got to assume there's going to be another star pro somewhere along the deck. You have 2 cards that you use for the very last, your very last level. So the 2 superstars left, that means I can use all of my star pros from here on out. So since I got through the first round, there's 2 superstars left. I am perfectly fine using my star pros. And there is the other star pro, even though we did not get a single ×2 multiplier. That sucks. Kind of hoped that we would get ×2 all the way across, but again, most of the time it doesn't happen that way. But sometimes you do get ×2 all the way, and we get another one without it, but we have plenty. We'll go against Marcus Camby. Not going to stand a chance. Again, he is one of the lower level superstar foils, so we take care of him pretty easy. We still have 2 cards left, and again, we didn't get a ×2 multiplier. That stinks. So 3 in a row we didn't get a ×2 when we ended up having one of the best decks possible that we could actually hope for. And again, sometimes it works out like that, right? I mean, sometimes you make different decisions and you can't get the ×2 that you want. Sometimes you have the deck to get the ×2 and it doesn't give it to you. But the whole point of all of it is to make sure we make it to the final game as easy and pain-free as possible. You don't want to be someone that has all the same cards in your deck and has to sit there and analyze each statistical category, whether or not you're going to win or lose. You don't want to have to worry about whether or not their foils are going to activate. You don't want to do any of that stuff. To me, you know, as many times as I've played King of the Court, this strategy works the absolute best for me. So I hope that it helped. That's going to do it for the video, man. I hope you learned something. Hopefully you are out here grinding. I am doing my best trying to get that top 500 because, yeah, I really want that Devin Booker. And so even if I am stuck with the Kyle Lowry icon foil, that's still a pretty decent card, and you have a superstar pro or superstar foil as well. But I definitely want that Devin Booker because he is a Suns, and I've been talking about Suns forever. And so anyway, hope you're doing well, man. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions or any other concerns, or maybe the strategy you use, and maybe I can learn something. You know, I'm always open to hearing what people have to say. How is the draft board turning out for you so far? I have not pulled a single star or a single superstar yet. So draft board hasn't been too good for me. I think I've pulled like 4 elites, but no star, no superstar, which means I am still not in the icon level. Still can't get my icon freebie. I need 1 more superstar pro in order to be able to do that. So anyway, I know this video was long, so if you stuck with me throughout the whole thing, I appreciate that, man. Drop a like if you did enjoy, if this helped you. I will check y'all later. I am out. Peace.